This is former All-Pro Dolphins lineman Richmond Webb, and you're listening to The Grueling Truth.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Mike and Aaron Sports World on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome in my co-host, Aaron Zepnick.
How you doing this week, Mike?
I'm always awesome. I'll tell you, I always feel great. Anytime I'm talking to you, Aaron, I'm ready to go. And we've got our special co-host tonight. That made it sound like there was something wrong with him, didn't it? Alex Holcomb. How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing good. Just glad to be back.
All righty. Well, we'll start off with, I guess, what the big topic was for the week, and that would be Curt Schilling. Got fired from ESPN for the comments he made. Aaron, what's your take on it?
Well, there's another man in the unemployment line, and he has to face the consequences for what he says on social media, as do all celebrities or athletes or former athletes. I mean, there's a standard that's set, especially when you work in the industry, and it's really no different than several that have done the same type of things before him.
Well, some get away with it, some don't. Curt Schilling should be fired for just being a bad announcer. But Alex, what's your take?
I'm glad he got fired. It's becoming a more politically correct culture, and I mean, he's not a good analysis anyway, and you have to be held responsible for what you say. It'd be a lot different if he didn't work for Disney, but you got to know what you're saying at all times, and you're the public face of a company, and he rightfully got fired.
Okay, now what did he say that was offensive?
The picture or the meme that was associated with what he said was very offensive to transgendered people. And
so
transgendered is
real quick, and I'll let you finish your comment. Because I see all kind of memes from like professional athletes I'm friends with on Facebook or guys that I follow on Twitter about a bunch of fat white hillbillies at Walmart that look exactly like that picture, but nobody gets fired for it.
Fat white hillbillies don't call into ESPN and complain. Fat white hillbillies don't rally like transgendered people do. Fat white hillbillies
rally. Oh, wait a second, though.
Fat white people.
Go ahead.
Fat white people transgender is not a protected class, but aren't basically treated as a protected class. That's the difference. And
why is there a protected class, though? I mean, human life is human life. It shouldn't matter what your preferences are, what your.
So what you're saying is there shouldn't. So what you're saying is all civil rights should go away. They're a group that has been targeted by hate groups constantly, and when you go after a group like that, you are going to get fired. If a comedian goes after those people, he doesn't get fired because he's his own boss. But when you are dealing with a company like Disney, who does not want any tarnishment on their name, they will fire you. It's easier to fire you than deal with the media, than deal with the backlash.
So I agree that he should have been fired, but I disagree with because they're going to rally more than fat white hillbillies. That shouldn't be the reason, and that shouldn't have anything to do with it. Like you said, Disney with what they want on their name.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Reason. If you do anything in your job as a business reason, if you're out drinking in a company vehicle and you get seen by somebody and they report it to your boss, you're going to get terminated. That's obvious. But there's a point here with freedom of speech, and
No, it's not a point with freedom of speech. Freedom of speech has nothing to do with that.
That's what Curt Schilling is trying to defend. And I think it's BS, but what he needs to understand, and this is what I think as far as why I agree with ESPN firing him. Number one, the business detriment. Number two, the freedom of speech line is fine when you're in the privacy of your own home. If you're talking to, if we're sitting here all talking and we're not being recorded, if I say something that's politically incorrect, I have that right.
Freedom of speech has nothing to do with that.
All right, this is the thing. Everybody has freedom of speech from the government.
What I'm trying to explain is when you're publicly bashing any group, whether it's a hated group or a potentially hated group or anything, and you're a public figure, you're in the eye of scrutiny. And that's what ultimately did Curt Schilling in. It has nothing to do with the, transgenders rallied around it. It has to do with everything with he's in the public eye, was on social media, people follow him, and it was reported to ESPN, and they made a business decision. And I agree with it.
Yeah, but the thing, my question is this, though. I don't believe what he said is wrong because, Alex, if you've got a 6-year-old daughter, do you want her going in a bathroom and having some dude go in next to her?
So you've never pulled your toddler daughter into the men's room with you because there was no female with you and put her in a stall?
That's not the same thing. I'm with her.
How is it not the same thing?
Hold on. This is not the same thing because of this. Transgender is a disorder. All right?
It is not termed a disorder. That might be your belief, Mike, but it is not a disorder.
Medicine. Yeah, I'm talking. So, I know a lot of times in a politically correct world, if somebody has a different opinion than you shout them down because that's what younger people do today. I can tell you this. Dr. McHugh, Paul McHugh from Johns Hopkins Medicine, this has been reviewed, 125 peer-reviewed papers on it. The study shows that transgender people who have a 20 times higher suicide rate than non-transgender people. It was also noted that a study at Vanderbilt University and London's Portman Clinic of children who had expressed transgender feelings, but for whom over time 70 to 80% spontaneously lost those feelings. I believe this. I believe that everybody, when you're told something is all right and it's justified to you, that makes it easier for somebody to do something that is abnormal. And I'm sorry, Alex, is it all right then? So from now on, if you're going to do this for transgender people, you have to let anybody use any bathroom they want. Because as you said, when my daughter was 6, I took her in the bathroom with me. Okay, when she was 6, I probably didn't. But when she was 4, I did. So if my wife wants to go to the bathroom now, and I got a problem with somebody who's 20 times more likely to commit suicide because of what they think they are, and let's face it, it's somebody that looks in the mirror and thinks that there's something they're not. It's a lot like anorexia, where an anorexic person will look and think they're fat no matter what. That's a disorder. And so you're telling me I do have the right to go in the bathroom with my wife to protect her if I got a grown-ass man going in there? There's a lot of deviant people anymore, whether they're transgender, lesbian, gay, straight, it doesn't matter. This whole world is becoming deviant because people are allowed to do whatever the hell they want as long as they're in a minority. And I'm not talking black or white. I'm talking about a minority with your sexual orientation.
I couldn't agree more, Mike. And, to be quite honest, women go into the bathrooms at Lambeau Field because they don't want to wait in the lines at, in the women's room because it's 10 times as long. There's something to be said about that. But if you go into a restroom right now in any fast food place or restaurant, and you walk into the women's room, people are calling the cops. You know what I mean? So why is it different for someone that calls themselves a transgender or has some sort of maybe other sexual orientation? Why is it okay for them to go in? And I can't agree with that more. I have a 4-year-old daughter. I do take her into the stall with me when we go to a public event or we're in public if my wife's not around. I don't want her standing there looking at men. So I take her in a private stall. We go out, and we get out. But
how is that any different from a transgendered person going into a stall?
All right, because
now,
my
I sent you a picture.
Daughter, you just asked a question, didn't you?
I can't remember.
You said that there was a 4-year-old going in with it. What about a 4-year-old going in with her mother?
4-year-old boy going in with her mother?
No, a 4-year-old girl going in the women's room with her mother. You still have guys going in there. And I'm sorry, Alex, they're 1% to 2% of the population from everything I've read. And the thing is this, you can't tell me there's not going to be a lot of pedophiles and not a lot of messed up people they're going to take advantage of that situation.
You have male pedophiles in male bathrooms already. It's not going to increase.
In female bathrooms.
How I honestly I don't see that becoming that much of an issue. I think that's a bit of a straw man argument right there. But we can't know because there's been no studies done. But how are you going to police this?
Well, if you're born male, this is how I would police it. If you're born male and you have a penis, you go to the men's room. If you're born a female and you have a vagina, you go in the women's room. If you're transgender, go in the family one where you can lock the door and you're the only one in there.
Not every store has family bathrooms.
Don't. But you know what? I don't care. You either have
so
a penis or a vagina, you go in that one.
You want somebody that might look completely like a male, more masculine than you look, but because he happens to have a vagina, you want him to go into the female bathroom. And you don't think that's going to cause issues?
There is no he that has a vagina. This is what I don't understand with this world anymore.
Because
you're not a he that has a vagina.
I agree with you when you're talking gender, but sex, the definition is what you identify with. Okay? Gender-wise, yes. If you have a penis,
they're not going into the bathroom to have sex. They're going to go to the bathroom.
So Mike, there is a lot of non-post-op transgendered people who look completely male who happen to have a vagina. When they go into the bathroom, they go into the stall, okay, because they can't use a urinal. That law would stop that. They would have somebody who shaves his face or has a bigger beard than I do going into the female bathroom. You don't think that's going to cause more problems?
Okay,
it's a law that doesn't need to be passed.
I don't know. A law should not be passed federally anyways. That's unconstitutional, which is it's against the 10th Amendment. I've got no problem if each state individually wants to vote on it the way it was written into the Constitution, the way everything's supposed to be done. Everything is federal, big government. I mean, you got Obama, Bush before him. They want to come in and tell everybody what they've got to do. I'm not down with that. And, I mean, the thing is now you got people, I mean, I'm not good with schools teaching my kids about sex, especially when you get on the damn computer every day and they're already being taught it by teachers that are having sex with them. I mean, this is a deviant world right now. It's not a deviant world because of transgender people. It's a deviant world because everybody's so freaking worried about hurting somebody's feelings that they do stupid crap. Once again, I don't care what you look like. If you have a penis, you go in the men's room. If you have a vagina, you go in the women's room. I don't see how that affects anybody's civil rights. And the thing is, in 1964, Lyndon Johnson was a major racist, if you look at the stuff he wrote, but the Civil Rights Act was passed so they could eventually do crap like this. You know, you make everything a protected class and everything goes to hell.
True.
When you have people who are being targeted for a specific reason, you have to protect them, okay?
Really? I can protect myself. I can be targeted for being white if I'm in the wrong place, just like a black person can be targeted by a cop. I don't need to be protected. I'm a grown-ass man. Of course, if I'm a grown-ass he, she, maybe I need protection. And I'm sorry, this is just a bunch of crap. I mean, and once again, if you have a penis, you go to the men's room. Yeah, what the hell? How does that protect somebody? Because you let them go in a different bathroom where they offend the majority of people. The majority of people in this country do not accept transgender people. Now, that doesn't mean the majority. You know, I could care less what anybody does if it doesn't affect me. But, you know, if I'm taking a piss and some woman walks in, I've got a problem.
How are you going to – okay, if that woman has a beard and has muscles more than you – I sent you that picture. That picture I sent you a buck.
How'd the woman get a beard?
Through hormone treatments.
Through hormone treatment. So she was doing something unnatural. You basically were born biologically a man or a woman. You cannot change that. It's been proven in almost every study from Vanderbilt University through Johns Hopkins. Now, I mean, you can sit there and you can say, well, they can't help it. Nobody knows what causes it, number one.
No, I will agree with you there. I will agree with you.
So if nobody knows what causes it, what are you protecting? You have no proof that there's anything wrong with them. And, I mean, if there is, they're obviously, if you look at transgender, depression, 30 to 40% more than a normal person. And I'm sorry I said normal. Maybe I hurt somebody's feelings, but I don't really care. So that's 30 or 40%. The suicide rate is 20% higher. So you can't tell me by
And you don't think that's due to bullying?
Bullying. You know what? I'm so sick of that bullying. Ooh, I got picked on. Who gives a shit?
I will agree with you. I will agree with you there. People need to learn how to let shit roll off their back. I am with you on that 100%.
And see, people will cry about the bullying, but nothing ever gets done about bullying. You could be in school. My son was in a regular school where they preach against bullying. He got smacked in his face repeatedly by a kid. He knocked the kid's ass out, and he's the one that got suspended because they told me even if you respond, they consider that bullying.
I agree with you there. Zero tolerance in schools is dumb, and it doesn't fix issues. But that's not what we're talking about.
Do not yeah, it is, because you just said bullying. And I'm giving you, what's the definition of bullying? I mean, really? I mean, there is no definition anymore. It's whatever the politically correct people want to say it is. But I'll tell you what, if you teach your kids, whether it's a man, woman, transgender, if you teach them to defend themselves, when somebody makes fun of you, smack them upside the head, we wouldn't have this problem. You know, when I was in school, if somebody bullied you for any reason, you punch them in the nose and they didn't bully you no more.
Mike, I'm with you on that. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I agree wholeheartedly about teaching your kids to defend themselves, and that bullying is better taught where you teach the victims to stand up for themselves, because you're never going to get rid of it, and it's been happening since the dawn of time. I'm not arguing with you on that. I was simply stating that the higher suicide rates is probably because a lot of them are picked on. They don't know who to turn to, and they get depressed, and then unfortunately they end their life. I'm not.
Think that
a majority of the people in this world, though, Alex, will stand by the fact that if they are making those choices, or if they have that disorder, or whatever you want to debate that is.
I mean, sex change is biologically impossible anyways, correct, Alex?
Yeah, that is correct. Gender changes.
If you cannot change your gender, you are that gender, you piss in the right potty.
So let's look at some of his comments, because it kind of echoes what you said, Mike. A man is a man no matter what they call themselves. I don't care what they are, who they sleep with. Men's rooms were designed for the penis, women's not so much. Now you have laws telling us differently. That's pathetic.
I don't disagree with what he said. Or I'm sorry, it's not that I don't disagree. I don't think he got fired for what he said. He got fired for the picture he attached to that. That is what he got fired for.
The picture was right because he got fired for it. So he got bullied. He posted a picture. The picture was obviously probably one of those Walmart ones anyways we talked about. But he posted a picture. Alex, we're talking about this. A man got fired for posting a picture basically stating that he was going to get fired if he posted the picture, and then they fired him. So anymore, the bullying to me is, if you don't go along with everything that you may not believe in, you can be fired. Now, I'll give you this. He probably should have shut up. He probably shouldn't have said a word about anything. He shouldn't have posted anything. That's why if you watch my Facebook, you'll hardly ever see me post anything about anything. Because, number one, I don't want people to know what the hell's in my head anyways. Yeah, because,
no one wants to know what's in your head, Mike.
Exactly. But my question is this. If you defend transgender people, it makes me wonder if there's anything in yours. I mean, these are people that are confused. I don't know why they're confused. Nobody knows why they're confused. But being confused does not make you a protected class. A protected class would be a black person, an Asian, even a white person in the right situation. But just because of what you are, I mean, and we really don't know what the hell they are, other than the fact that biologically, you just said you can't change the sex.
You can't change your gender.
And you can't change the sex.
It is a difference between sex and gender, Mike.
Okay.
Medically, there is a difference.
What's the difference?
Sex is identified as what you identify yourself as. So I can identify myself as female sexually. Now, gender-wise, if you are born a male, you are a male. No matter what, whether you get gender reassignment surgery, take all the hormones that you want, you will always be gender-wise a male. You do not have ovaries, you don't have a fallopian tube or a uterus. Okay? If your gender is a female, you will always be a female, gender-wise. Sex-wise, it's a little more hinky with the definition because you can identify either way. Those are the medical definitions.
Let me dumb this down for you, Mike. What he's saying is gender is what parts you're born with. Sex is what you think you are.
Yeah,
exactly.
I just wanted to hear him explain it because I was tired of talking. I was almost out of breath. See, my problem with the whole thing still comes down to this. You got the Obama administration, Hollywood, major media, such as Time Magazine.
This has nothing to do with the Obama administration.
Okay.
This is a law in New York.
Alex, listen to me. It does because he's trying to pass a federal law for the entire country. So how does it not have something to do with that?
Because it's a law in North Carolina. That's what we're talking about right now.
No, they're trying to pass a federal law in North Carolina.
They can't pass a federal law in North Carolina, Mike. You can only pass a federal law in Washington, D.C.
Well, they're trying to make it a federal law. And the people in North Carolina don't want it. And I would say that you're probably not going to find many states out of New York and California that would vote for it. But they're going to enforce it anyways, and that is the Obama administration. And it's not because I don't like Obama. I don't like anybody that's ever been president, except for maybe George Washington, but he's still up in the air from stuff I've read. But you've got Hollywood, major media. They all promote transgenderism as normal. And these policymakers in the media are doing no favors to either the public or transgender people by treating their confusions as a right and needed defending rather than a mental disorder that deserves understanding, treatment, and prevention. Because you do not know what causes it. You already said that yourself.
No, you are, yes.
So if these people are more depressed than everybody else, and I don't believe it's just because they're bullied, they're confused. You know,
yep.
I made the comparison to anorexia. The same thing. You look in the mirror and you see fat, but you're not. So instead of helping these people, the only thing we do by defending their civil liberties is keep them from being helped.
And that was the point I was going to make before too, Alex, is almost every single disorder you can look up leads to depression. It doesn't matter what one it is. You can look at it. I have a son that actually is diagnosed with depression, which leads from other disorders, so I live it every day.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know,
don't you think it would be better to try to help people? Your statement before was saying they're bullied is why they're depressed. No, it's because of being confused is why they're depressed. You know, it's part of a disorder. Maybe it's not diagnosed or called or tagged a disorder, but I guarantee you it's some sort of disorder. Well, actually, Johns Hopkins and Vanderbilt University both tag it as a disorder, as do most places.
It's pretty credible.
I mean, it was only recently was it not termed a mental disorder. And the problem is they termed it not being a mental disorder, but they never gave it a description of what caused people to be that way.
And I don't even know that it's a mental disorder. I would argue that it's more of a behavioral disorder than a mental.
It's termed gender dysphoria.
Well, who termed it that? When was it termed that?
This is with the APA, the American Physicians Association. It's basically what everybody goes by. That basically, the only diagnosed with gender dysphoria if, like you said, they have depression and things like that. So being transgendered and this is the APA, meaning basically who makes the rules. Being transgendered is not a mental disorder, but when being transgendered causes depression and other mental issues. It's called gender dysphoria. So it's not. Yes, there are people who are transgendered who have that gender dysphoria, but not all transgender people have that gender dysphoria.
Is there any medication for it? Is there,
No, there are no medications. I mean, they treat depression and things like that with, SSRIs and things like that, but that's getting way too technical, and nobody cares about that in a sports podcast.
Yeah, which makes everything worse.
I was just wondering, because if it's not treatable, that's the underlying issue. We as a society need to figure out, okay, if it's not accepted, is it treatable?
What if I don't accept church? What if the general population all of a sudden decides believing in an invisible man in the sky all of a sudden is a mass delusion and needs to be treated?
Then don't go.
Well, then why do you care about transgender people then?
I don't.
Well, because they're trying to get in my bathroom. Because
they're not
you don't
trying to get in your bathroom. They're fighting a law that doesn't allow them to use the bathroom.
They're fighting a law? There's no law that doesn't allow them to use it. The law says a man uses the men's room, a woman uses the woman's room. Where is the law that says anything about transgendered people anyways on it?
Well, I disagree on that. That the North Carolina law was specifically put out to stop transgendered people using the bathroom of.
And what is wrong with that? What is wrong with that?
Because then you're going to have guys. Then you're going to have people with vaginas walking into a women's room, and they're going to have a full beard and more jacked than you are, Mike, and they're going to look exactly like a man.
So much bullshit. How many men do you know or women do you know walk around with beards?
Transgendered women, gendered women who identify as male all the time have beards. I sent you a picture of that picture I sent you.
My God, send me a picture of a freaking million of them then. You're giving me small, specific cases. I'm telling you this. If the state of North Carolina passes a law, that is a constitutional law. That cannot be changed constitutionally by the federal government.
I agree with you, Mike, on that. I agree with you that the federal government should not. The problem is the law itself. The problem is the law itself. It's not. I could care less whether it's a state or federal issue.
No, we'll see a lot of the problem in this country comes from people not caring. I mean, it's the Constitution, and it's been torn up, it's been ripped apart, and it's pretty much done with because nobody really cares.
Mike, you're twisting my words. I said
That's what you just said.
No, Mike, what I said was I don't care whether it's a federal or state law. I care about the law itself. Now, I do care if the federal government is nosing into the state government, and I care if the state government tries to nose into the federal government.
So
I agree with
if the federal government comes and mandates that they change that law?
No.
Okay. Well, then that's
the law. It should be changed in the state. Somebody should sue the state to change the law. That is how our laws are changed.
All right. Do you know how many people are transgendered in North Carolina?
I have no idea, Mike. I have no idea.
0.7%.
Okay.
So why, the law should be whatever the people want it to be, correct?
Not when it infringes on other people's rights. That's how you end up with slavery.
They're not infringing on anybody's rights, because if you have a vagina, you can still go to the woman's room, and if you have a dick, you can go to the men's room. I got tired of saying penis because it made me, I don't know. I just don't like to say penis.
Oh, I think all we're going to do is it's talking to a brick wall to you, and it's talking to a brick wall to me. So let's move on. Let's move on to trades and Josh Norman stealing from the Redskins.
Okay, tell us about that.
Josh Norman ended up getting signed after only being on free agency
for. What a segue, huh?
Yeah, no kidding, right? With Josh Norman.
Oh, Aaron, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just enjoying. I got popcorn. I'm sitting here enjoying the show.
There you go. So Josh Norman, basically, Josh Norman wanted to get way too much money from the Carolina Panthers, and their GM basically said, no, you're not worth that. You've only been good for 1 year. So they rescinded his franchise tag, which I don't know if that's ever happened before. I didn't have a chance to look that up. But he signed.
They've been rescinded before.
Yeah,
not often, but
yeah, I know it's pretty rare. But they basically he signed. Snyder is an idiot. He signed Josh Norman to a 5-year, $75 million contract. He's not worth that. But it was
the question is, how much is up front? Did they say?
No, I didn't catch the exact
Probably
numbers on it.
$20 million of it at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, my thing with Josh Norman is he's one of the better corners in the NFL, but he's a cover 2 corner. You got to play the right defense for him, and I don't know. I mean, with the Redskins, I just don't see where it's worth that much money to him.
I honestly don't see. It's hard to find any player that is worth. Let's see here. Oh my God, it's worse than that. It's $50 million of it's guaranteed.
Oh my God. Well,
yeah.
If I'm Josh Norman, I disappear to an island where I can pee in any potty I want.
No kidding. If I'm Josh Norman, I'd become the worst player ever, so I don't get hurt.
No, I become the worst player, so it'll cut my ass, and I can go to that beach where I can pee wherever I want.
Well, they can cut you. They still got to pay the $50 million.
Yeah, and then
they still have to pay him. I know. That's what I'm saying. If I'm him, I'd just chill out. But
yeah,
because let's face it, with Daniel Snyder there, the Redskins aren't ever winning a Super Bowl.
No, they're not. When you have an owner that doesn't have the knowledge, that tries to butt in all the time, you're never gonna win.
All right, now let's move to the Cleveland Browns trade. Aaron, you want to talk about the Browns trade a little bit?
I actually didn't see who did they trade for. Are you talking about the draft trade where they traded the number 2 pick?
Yeah. They got the number 8 pick. So they switched with, Tennessee? Or not Tennessee. Who did they switch with, Alex?
Eagles.
The Philadelphia Eagles.
That's right.
Yeah, they fleeced the Eagles.
Well, we don't know that until 10 years from now, but unless this dude whoever they pick ends up being Joe Montana, John Elway, they got fleeced.
They're going to get the D3 guy.
D3 guy?
Here's the thing, though.
Guys, no, not D3.
He's going to
I think 5 or 6 picks for that.
Yeah. I mean, they've even got the first rounder next year and the second rounder in 2018 from him.
Yeah.
So they better pick the right guy.
Yeah, and they won't, because they'll either pick a drunk, a guy that wants to sit around and smoke weed, or another talented player that'll throw his career away for something else. And
well, I don't think Carson Wentz or Jared Goff, they'll either be really good football players or they won't.
Yes, those are the 2 options.
And I think they're by far the 2 best options in the draft for quarterbacks, but I don't think either one of them is worth a top 5 or 10 pick.
No, and so the Eagles got the number 2 overall, the number 4 overall, and Sam Bradford has requested a trade. The Browns got number 8 overall, a 3rd round, a 4th round, next year's first in 2018
second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no player worth that much.
No. Well, hey, on the bright side,
at least not in this draft. I mean, if you do that type of trade for Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck, John Elway, Joe Montana. Well, not Montana because he's a 3rd-round pick, but a guy that you know is a sure thing.
Yeah, you don't do that for somebody from North Dakota State.
Or
wherever.
Especially when 23 teams passed on Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it's a proven fact.
Tom Brady, everybody passed on him like 5.5 times.
Yeah. You don't. It's nobody in this draft that is franchise changing. I don't see.
Not from a quarterback standpoint, no.
Well, that's really I don't know. We could debate whether
that's the thing that you can trade like that for.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, they could go and pick DeForest Buckner. He could be the greatest defensive lineman of all time. And let's face it. It's kind of like New Orleans with the Ricky Williams trade. They gave up everything to Washington, which everybody said they got fleeced. Nobody got fleeced there because they both had one good player out of it because the Redskins screwed the rest of the draft up, or rest of that draft up.
Yeah.
But they got, I think, Champ Bailey. Was it Champ Bailey? Is it DB? But they got 2 good players out of the Redskins did out of the 8 picks. So when you look at it, hell, it's just like when the Bengals were offered that and they decided to keep Achilles Smith and make the trade with Ricky Williams. We all know the Bengals would have just picked 8 Achilles Smiths.
Yeah. Like you said in one of your posts, Dick is just not that great of a coach.
He's not. I mean, Buddy Ryan and that team should have won 3 Super Bowls. I mean, if you looked at it, everybody talks about their defense in 85. Their defense had better stats in 86 and 87. But then, I think, was it in 86 where Ditka decided to bring Flutie in towards the end of the season, and his first start was in a playoff game against the Redskins? It was either 86 or 87. I mean, come on. How stupid can you get?
Yeah. Oh, no, that's their starting line. I was trying to find you the picks, but I couldn't find them.
What picks?
The Redskins 1999 picks.
Yeah, because actually I wrote the story about the worst trades ever, and I think that was like 2 or 3. I can't remember who the guys were because my short-term memory's bad. But from what I saw, they had 2 players that were pretty good. The rest of the guys they got were all journeymen.
Yeah. Let's see. And then, yeah. Well, I don't know. Just not good. Let's see here.
Well, and the Rams screwed up, too.
When's the last time the Redskins had a good draft, period?
Have they ever?
Well, I'm sure they did back in, like, the 80s when Joe Gibbs ran.
And when they had Riggins and the Hogs, they drafted some good linemen back then.
Well, they had a lot of good drafts when Joe Gibbs was running things.
His first time around, yeah.
Well, even the second time around, he got them to the playoffs. That doesn't happen too often for the Redskins. That was the year they went up and I think got beat to death by Seattle.
So what else do you want to talk about on the draft? What do you think is the deepest position in the draft?
I like the defensive line.
Yep, I agree.
The defensive line, there's like 8 or 9 guys there that I think can all be at least really solid starters. I think the quarterbacks are kind of weak this year. Running backs, I don't think are great. I think you get 2 or 3 good ones, and then it's kind of a toss-up. Wide receivers, I think wide receivers you might have 6 guys that turn out to be really good. From watching film, there's 2 that I'm really impressed with. There's another 3 that I'm kind of shaky on. Defensive line-wise, though, I think Joey Bosa is the most overrated defensive end coming out of the draft in a long time.
You think he's overrated?
I think he's big-time overrated. If you watch his production, you watch the film, his sophomore year he was a badass. Junior year, not so much. Senior year dropped off. And I know also the thing that's got to scare the hell out of teams is there were a lot of rumors about him doing drugs before last season. When Ohio State, before that first game against, I think it was Virginia Tech, asked him to do the drug test, he refused, which is why he had to miss the game. So the question there is if he refused, was it just marijuana or was it something worse? And as we've seen, even marijuana can end your career.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of D linemen. Just D ends, Shaq Lawson from Clemson's a beast. Kevin Dodd from Clemson's also a good defensive end. Emmanuel,
I think it's possible Dodd ends up being better than Lawson also.
Could be. Emmanuel Agba from Oklahoma State. He's a big boy, 6'4", 273.
Has a tendency to take plays off.
Yeah, but he's actually quicker than both Clemson guys. So
yeah, but he has a tendency to take plays off. The question is, does that follow through? I mean, Alex, you're close to Cincinnati. You remember Big Daddy Wilkinson, don't you?
Oh, yeah, Big Daddy Dan.
I remember Big Daddy Wilkinson, too. Just because I'm not from Cincinnati.
Big
Dan
Daddy.
Wilkinson, number 92, D-tackle. He was a good player, but
he was actually number 99, wasn't he, Alex?
I believe so.
Because number 92 was John Copeland, who actually ended up being a better pick and a better player consistently.
Did he wear 92 with someone else then? Because I remember Wilkinson being a 92.
I don't know. I know he went somewhere else. But the Shaq Lawson one, Shaq Lawson, you got to watch for because I think he's a great fit in a 4-3, but I don't think he fits in a 3-4 scheme really well. Dodd's the same way, much better in a 4-3 than he is a 3-4, and I think he's more of a base end than a 4-3. The game he played in the national championship with the 3 sacks really sold me on him, though. But at Ugbai, the one from Oklahoma State, I mean, he's the fastest, he's the biggest. I think somebody could actually surprise, fall in love with what he did at the combine and stuff, and pick him in the high teens to mid-20s even.
Mm-hmm.
So who's your sleeper this year, Mike?
My sleeper as a what position or just overall?
Overall.
Okay, you're going to love this because of an answer you gave me on a question about the top quarterback.
Way to steal my answer.
I like Nate Sudfeld.
I think he's going to surprise a lot of people.
I think he'll make a roster. I don't know that he'll ever be a starting quarterback, but I think he will make a roster. The only thing that worries me with him, IU's offense was really good, but they didn't really run NFL concepts, if you know what I mean.
But he's 6'6". You know, he's got that size. I think Coach
how many guys at that size turn out to be that great? Most of your better quarterbacks are 6'3", 6'4".
Joe Flacco.
Yeah, that's one. Give me another one.
Yeah, I can't give you a bunch. I can't give you a bunch, but I don't know. I think that you put him behind an Aaron Rodgers, a Tom Brady, a veteran quarterback who's willing to teach him. I think you're gonna have a starter in 3 to 4 years. I don't think that.
Go ahead. Sorry about that.
I don't think that he's gonna be a world beater, but I'd be willing to bet money that he'll start an NFL game in the next 5 years.
Well, if somebody gives him an actual chance, because you got guys like Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott could turn out to be good, just for the simple fact that I think he's one of the smarter quarterbacks in the draft.
Yeah, I haven't looked.
And he's 6'4", 6'5", 240. Huh?
The kid from Memphis doesn't look bad, but I don't think he'll be a starter first year, second year. I think he's another guy.
I could see 4 quarterbacks going in the first round, even though I don't think there's 4 guys there worth going in the first round.
Good. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Talk to you later, Alex. But I'll tell you, my biggest one that I think is going to be a shock is a cornerback out of Miami of Florida by the name of Artie Burns, which I think people overlook. I mean, I think he could be a great steal for somebody late first round, early second round. But
absolutely, Burns is he's a good player. He plays the ball well. A guy that like linebacker, a lot of guys are talking about Ragland and Lee. Ragland, I think, will be gone before the Packers draft. I'd like to see them get him, but I don't think they will. That Lee played in a 3-3-5, and nobody in the NFL plays that. So I think that might hurt his stock. He's a guy that I hope the Packers don't take, just because of the fact he's a little undersized, and he really hasn't run the system he's going to run in the pros in college. So I don't know if that's going to be a deterrent. I could see him falling a little bit.
Yeah. Do you think the Packers are going with the linebacker then?
I don't think they will, actually. I think the Packers will probably end up going defensive line with B.J. Raji's departure. I think they need a run-stopping nose tackle. I don't know if they'll go with that in the first round or not. Thompson's, clearly his best player available. He could draft a receiver. He could draft a running back. Who knows?
They need to get an offensive line for Aaron Rodgers. He's never had one, at least not for like 4 years.
Yeah, I think Lang is very overrated as a guard, and I also think Balaga's always hurt. Sitton's their only mainstay. He's the only guy that's there every year, and to be honest, I think he's a little overrated as well. But I think this Lindsey kid will be good at center, and Bakhtiari's had flashes of being good at left tackle. He shut down a lot of good DNs.
Yeah, but see, your problem is this: when you talk about 2 linemen that you don't think are very good, that means even
40%
if you draft,
of your line.
You still need depth. I mean, because you know yourself, offensive line, you're usually not making it through a season unscathed.
Right.
But,
yep. And with injuries the way that we've had them. I mean, Bakhtiari's been hurt. Balaga's really been hurt. But who knows? It's a long season, and the Packers tend to always draft decent. But the thing I'm sick of with Ted Thompson is you wait and wait and wait, they get to your team's pick, and then all of a sudden they trade it away, and they move down. So
the big problem with the Packers is not their first couple picks, it's rounds 3 through 7. That's why there's not a lot of depth on the roster.
Well, they're one of the youngest teams in the NFL. After you take out Aaron Rodgers, who's, I think, 30, and then you have Julius Peppers, who's, 36, 35. After that, the next oldest player, I think, is 28 years old.
Yeah, they drafted all right. I got them mixed up there because they're one of the, 2 or 3 teams that have, 48 out of their 53 guys that were drafted.
Yeah, they build through the draft. The 3 through 7, I mean, last year they picked Jake Ryan, the linebacker from Michigan. That's why it depends how they feel on him, I think, honestly. If he's made the progression, the jump from year 1 to year 2, and Sam Barrington's coming back, who he can't cover very well, but he's a great run stop in middle linebacker. So it depends how they feel about Jake Ryan. Can he be the guy that stays on the field in the nickel or dime? Is he a starter? I don't know. I know they lost Mulumba and Palmer to free agency, but they got 4 young corners that are pretty good, and I'm not a big Morgan Burnett fan, so I'd like to see him take a center fielder that's a safety.
Well, I'll tell you, they better pick well because I think Minnesota's going to be a handful for a few more years at least, especially if they sign one of the 2 big-time wide receivers in the draft.
Yeah, and Minnesota's a team that loves to pick receivers in the first round.
Well, not with Zimmer there. They're more picking DBs normally, but they need to get Bridgewater something other than just Stephon Diggs to throw to.
Yeah, well, Cordell Patterson they picked pretty early. They picked another receiver quite a few years ago that was real early. It didn't turn out to be much, but Percy Harvin, they picked him in the first round a few years back. I think they have I don't want to see Treadwell go there and play him twice a year, I'll tell you that much.
I'd be more afraid of Fuller. No matter what people say about Fuller being underrated, I still think he's the best wide receiver in this draft.
He is, but he's not that big red zone target, 6'2". Treadwell's a mammoth of a man. He's not as fast, but he's a possession receiver. I think Bridgewater, with the running game, Bridgewater could really, settle into. And with Kyle Rudolph in the red zone, all they need is another big red zone target, and I think they're going to be dangerous, as much as I hate to say it.
Well, they were the best team in that division last year anyways.
No.
They weren't? Who was better? Detroit?
Packers.
Really? Even though Minnesota
Packers are better, but the
Green
Packers
Bay
had a lot of injuries.
Oh, God.
And,
here we go. So did Minnesota.
It's the NFC North is not the NFC North. It's the Packers and their 3 bitches. Come on. I think that Josh Doxson from TCU is actually better than, some of the other guys that they have rated 2 and 3. I don't think Fuller and Coleman are better than that Josh Doxson.
I don't think that Coleman's very good myself.
No, and they have him as the third-ranked receiver as far as position. But you got receivers are pretty deep position as well in this class. You got Tyler Boyd from Pitt, who's good. Sterling Shepard from Oklahoma, who's good.
Thomas from Ohio State too, which nobody ever mentions hardly.
Thomas, yeah, he's Ohio State receivers are hard for me to like because I'm a Wisconsin fan. But Braxton Miller's going out as a receiver. Who knows what he's going to be like? Is someone going to take a chance on him? He's a hell of an athlete, that's for sure.
I don't think we'll do it in the first round because you can do a lot of things with him.
No, not in the first round.
No, but maybe I would look for him to go somewhere between late second and end of the third. Yep. Somebody will take a shot on him just because he's a great athlete. And he was, Ohio State should have left him a quarterback last year.
I agree.
I think he was better than the other 2 guys. But, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Want to thank Alex for coming in again. You got any final words, Aaron?
No, just everybody enjoy the nice weather. It's finally starting to get nice up here in Wisconsin. So we're looking at it in the 60s tomorrow. So, get outside, enjoy the nice weather, and get some exercise, spend time with your kids, or if you have nothing to do, come to my head coaching debut for the semi-pro team I'm coaching, the Fox Valley Force. If you're listening, we play at Kaukauna High School at 1 o'clock, and we're looking to eat some Angry Birds.
Well, text me, let me know how you do. Good luck with that.
Thank you, bud.
Make sure you check out thegruelingtruth.net. You can now get us on Google Music, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, a bunch of other stuff like Podcaster or something. I don't even know. But make sure you check out our interview last night with San Francisco 49er legendary lineman Steve Wallace. Next Thursday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, we will have our first ever live Grueling Truth draft show, which I'm hoping Aaron will call in about the time the Packers pick so he can give his thoughts.
I definitely will, Mike.
And you can call in. Anybody can call in during the show and talk to us. It'll be myself, Matt Andrew Scavage, Mark Cooper, former Denver Bronco, played 7 or 8 years in the NFL, actually was Elway's guard on the drive and in Super Bowl 21. He's always great. He was on the Pick'em Show a lot last year. Got a couple other special guests, former football players that'll be on, so make sure you check that out. Follow us on Twitter at Grueling Truth. So for Aaron Zepnick, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.